Tesla Optimus robot dances, Project Astra chatbot has a keen eye for art, and sugar-free is a scam.
Plan on being, I think like next year will be tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands and millions. Within 2 or 3 years, they'll be printing millions of these. And like we said, people assume that they're going to be ridiculously expensive. In reality, the robot itself will probably be fairly affordable, about the price of a vehicle. What is going to be really expensive may be specific AIs. So there may be a general AI that will be included, but then if you wanted to specialize in something specific, you want it to be an accountant or whatever, maybe that will have a unique price point or something you can rent or something like that, like a knowledge package or something like that. But things are changing and they're coming fast. So I think we have a clip about Optimus, Tesla's humanoid robot dancing. Right after that one came out, there was a newer one showing it catching balls, and this is all in real time. And catching a ball requires phenomenal dexterity, but also speed of processing and understanding. And it's the same supercomputer that they have in the car. They just put it in the humanoid's chest, and it's using the same cameras. It also has 8 cameras, just like the vehicle. It's basically the same brain that learned to understand the 3D world and transition it at 80 miles an hour is now doing it at 5 or 2, but it's also interacting with its hands and its brain a lot more. So this is remarkable.
Here we go. So one of the things that I appreciate, so having studied biomechanics, having my exercise science background, if you watch, in fact, it's almost worthwhile going back and playing it again. The fact that Optimus can step off on its toes. Traditionally, when you look at robots moving, they're flat-footed. They stomp as they walk. This is nothing new. If you watched the last few years, when you see a robot moving, even Optimus previously couldn't do this. The fluidity of the movement is unbelievable. But how, while weight bearing on Optimus's feet, Optimus can actually toe off and move forward or backwards, keep the balance, and not be flat-footed while doing this, that's a remarkable
With 1 foot in the air.
No, that's remarkable. That's the computing that's necessary, the ability for all the different motors to be able to do that on a robot that looks like a human. It doesn't look like some odd box. It looks like put clothes on it. You could maybe see it walking down the street. You would think it's a human being. And again, watching this video, the level of skill in dancing, you could say, well, just dancing. So what? It's not about that. It's about what's required to make the robot dance the way that it's dancing. And if it could do this, it means it has the fine motor skills to do other things, such as working in a factory, doing household chores, and so forth.
Walking down the streets.
Absolutely. It is to see is quite a thing. So I think when Tesla put out the video, it wasn't just like, it can dance. Okay, great. I guess it's great if you're going to a nightclub and you don't have someone to go with, but that's not the intent. And it certainly is impressive.
I think the dancing is only a technology demonstrator, right? It's not because we need it to dance. It's because that's one of the hardest things for it to do. With the evolution of graphics card, it's always ranked on how well it performs in gaming. Not because the only thing you do with a graphics card is gaming, but because gaming is one of the most resource intensive things you can do on a graphics card. So if you want to show the prowess of a graphics card, you'll use the example of gaming. So like here, when it comes to human balance and human walking and human movement skills, dancing is really at the top of the list there. I think there are 2 really notable things about this clip that most people may have missed. First is set at the bottom of the screen, 1x speed, and that's really important. A whole bunch of these videos that we're seeing from other companies that do humanoids, they'll show you these videos that look super impressive, but it's at 3, 4, 5, 10 times speed. And that is just very different. Here is doing everything basically live. And then another thing was If anybody's unfamiliar with James Douma, Douma, he is brilliant he's on X and he's on YouTube. He's one of the most brilliant analysts on humanoid robots on planet Earth, and he analyzes every single one of these clips very in depth. It's definitely worth taking a look. But what he mentioned is that if you tell the robot to dance, it'll make up a dance. It's like a robotic dance. It doesn't seem very good to us. And even if you tell it to do a human dance, it'll do the human dance with robotic movements, and it just still looks off to us. So what they had to do here is they use these sensors to have basically capture real dancers doing these dances, and then it had to recalibrate everything to do it in a way that looks like a human dance. And that's much more impressive than just having the robot dance.
I agree. That's again the reality. I had someone ask me when I show them the same video, and they're like, "Oh, it says 1x speed." That's the reason, just like you described. I think it's super important. And the ability for the robot not just to do these movements, but to be thinking in real time while moving, because that's ultimately what Optimus is going to be tasked with doing. There's a clip we're going to play next, which I know you haven't seen. It's from 60 Minutes, and it's not a robot. It's actually on a smartphone where you have a chatbot, but I think you'll be impressed, as was I when I saw this. I thought we should include it for our viewers and listeners. Here we go. Let's take a look at this. Incredible, just what this is capable of doing. They're in an art gallery, and they're essentially pointing this smartphone at artwork and speaking to the chat bot.
Do we call her she?
It's a good question. I'm not sure we all know the answer yet.
Bibo Shu is product manager for Project Astra, an app in a new generation of chatbots that interpret the world with their own eyes. We challenged Astra with virtual paintings we chose and showed to Astra for the first time.
This is July Hay by Thomas Hart Benton from 1942.
How about this one?
That is The Virgin of Charity by El Greco. That painting is Automat by Edward Hopper.
The person in the painting, what emotion is she exhibiting?
The subject in the painting appears pensive and contemplative, her expression suggesting a sense of solitude.
Can you create a story around this picture?
It's a chilly evening in the city. A Tuesday, perhaps. The woman, perhaps named Eleanor, sits alone in the diner. She is feeling melancholy due to the uncertainty of her future and the weight of unfulfilled dreams. The scene freezes in time, only the flow of ideas moving onward.
That line, only the flow of ideas moving onward? I wish I'd written that. And did we hear a limit to Astra's patience? What was that fictional conversation about?
In the story I imagined, Eleanor and her friend talked about their shared dreams and
That's remarkable, right? That's crazy.
Yeah, the truth is, like, most of the AIs we have in our pocket can basically do that. You take a picture or a video, Grok or ChatGPT, and it can basically do the same thing. I don't know if you necessarily need Astra. I think the phone they were using there was an old Google Pixel phone that has LiDAR, perhaps, so maybe that theoretically can be implemented as well. It's already here in our pockets, basically. Maybe not as perfected as that 60-minute example, but yeah, I'm definitely call me impressed. What about you?
I am. And it's just, again, it's an example. We're not saying one is better than the other. We're saying all this is culminating in all the AI technology, chatbots, robots, all the technology is going to be to the next level very soon. Already that not only is that it's one thing to identify what artwork is up. It's another to tell a story based on what it's seeing and describe what you're seeing and make a story out of it. And the chatbot's giving a name to the person in the artwork. Ultimately, I think that's really the message we're trying to drive home is the future is coming very quickly. And I think it's important for everyone to keep aware and to certainly keep in mind. Certainly when you think about your career, when you think about what life is going to be like 10, 20 years from now, because it's going to come over that time frame. There's going to be massive changes. That being said, ready or
On
not,
to the next.
here it comes. I think it's time for us to switch gears and we could talk a little bit of perhaps something that's in the headlines now that touches on an area of interest for me, which has to do with healthcare. We know that there's been some very interesting announcements recently, but I think before we get to that, we'll start off with something maybe a little lighter and I'm gonna have you watch something from the BBC that I'm gonna ask that as you hear the question being asked, put yourself in the moment and answer the question in your mind before the question gets answered. And this is a good start into transitioning into talking about health, healthcare, illness, preventing illness, topics that I was like touching upon, which will segue into the next area that we're going to be covering. So here we go.
How much sugar in the sugar-free Tic Tac?
There's no sugar in the sugar-free Tic Tac.
Oh, you've done so well up to this point.
Is it sugar-free doesn't mean there's no sugar,
Well,
does it?
Does,
Oh.
but within certain limits,
Yeah.
according to the Food and Drug Administration. It's just the American.
Little calorie.
A little bit. It's pretty much all sugar, but they're so small. The law says that if it's only half a gram of sugar, it doesn't count as sugar. It doesn't count as any. According to their own website, Tic Tac, registered trademark mints, do contain sugar as listed in the ingredient statement. However, since the amount of sugar per serving, 1 mint is a serving, since the amount of sugar per serving is less than half a gram, FDA labelling requirements permit the nutrition facts to state that there are 0 grams of sugar per serving.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think our next topic is right on that same exact conversation point, which is serving sizes. The fact that companies can imagine and decide and determine whatever serving size they want allows them to play a whole bunch of games with a whole bunch of foods. And even years ago, I started noticing this, and just comparing it was just an entertaining thing to do. I remember as a kid, I started noticing the differentiation about serving sizes, and it's like, how does any of this make sense? And it didn't, and it was an entertaining thing to watch and keep track of and joke about with friends back then. And I think they probably do a much funnier job in this next clip. So let's go ahead and give it a watch.
Yeah, so the next clip's Chris Kohler, and he has a lot of videos like the one that we're about to put up. But it's interesting, if for those that didn't see on the screen what we were looking at, in that show, they were actually putting an image of the ingredient list. And guess what the first ingredient for the sugar-free Tic Tacs?
Be sure to watch our other clips and shorts and the entire episode 12 of The Yojo Show.